Hello, my name is Brittany. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're gonna be doing some Pride recommendations.
It's Brittany, bitch.
June is a very important month, not only because it is Pride Month, but also is because it is my birthday month. And unfortunately, I don't have anything that's actually a rainbow, which I know is very surprising for a lot of people. I also don't have like a Buy Pride shirt. I've been looking everywhere for shirts that I really would enjoy, but I don't know, I think it's something I love so much that I don't want to see it ruined in a way. And I feel like a lot of them have like weird, quirky sayings I'm not sure if I'm like on board with. So I haven't fully decided on that. So I decided to dress like a rainbow. So I have my red, my orange, my yellow, my green, which makes me look like a watermelon, my blue, this is also technically navy blue even though it looks black on film, this is a navy blue, and it looks like pink up here, but it's technically a pinky purple, okay? This is the best that I could do. I'm sorry. But today I'm gonna have 6 recommendations to give you, and these are all books that I've read in the last year or so, and there are no repeats in this video. All the books from my last Pride video are not mentioned in this one. So the first one I want to talk about is Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno, and I really love this book. I actually gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, and does it actually deserve 5 stars? Maybe not, but for some reason it really gave me those warm, fuzzy feelings that I usually don't get from many books, and that I usually hate from books trying to give you those warm, fuzzy feelings. And it just kind of worked for me. This is a YA novel, and we're following Georgina and her family in this little remote island, which is literally called By the Sea, which just cracks me up. And it's also very Edgar Allan Poe-ish. You're welcome. And something that drives everyone to this island is the tourism for like this 300-year-old bird that like never seems to die until one year the bird doesn't show up. Now, this book for some reason reminded me a lot of like a modern day Practical Magic. So if you love that movie, I think you're definitely gonna love this book. There's a lot of magical realism in it, which I like kind of knew about, but when the magical realism came, I was like really surprised and I really loved it. And I do have to warn, there is an off-screen rape in this book. It's not center stage, it is addressed in an appropriate manner. So if that's something you need to know, now you know. I think this has some really great LGBT representation. Our main character seems to be a lesbian, and she has like this little, I'm gonna call it, it's not even a tryst. It's like just like moments with this one other girl on the island, which are so sweet. And I would absolutely read a sequel to this book. Like 100% I would read a sequel of just them together. Like I ship them so hard, and I usually don't ship people together that often. I'm usually like, why are they together? Love them. So definitely recommend this book, but it also does read a little bit like YA, so if you're not into YA-ish kind of books, I'm not sure if it's for you, but it to me felt like a YA modern version of Practical Magic, and I loved it. The next book is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, and I read this a couple months ago, and I do have to warn, it does deal a lot with death and like kind of like reincarnation and cemeteries, and I just had an uncle die in the middle of reading that book, and it definitely shook me and made me very sad while reading this. And just if you just lost a loved one, I probably wouldn't recommend this one. It does deal heavily with the occult, which is like a really cool part of it, but also part is like those are living spirits, and it was a little difficult after the passing of my uncle. And yeah, so if you have a loved one that just passed, might skip this one. This one is about Yadriel, and he basically wants to be a brujo so bad. He is trans, and his community doesn't accept him for who he is. And he can't be a brujo because of that. And he wants to prove himself. So he basically tries to summon a spirit, but ends up summoning somebody else instead. And it's a very interesting, beautiful story. And I really enjoyed this, but also for me, the pacing was a bit off. But please don't let any of my issues with any of the books deter you. There are excellent LGBT representation, and I really loved it. And this book had a lot of heartwarming feels, and so many people gave this 5 stars because it is just so heartwarming and sweet. But for me, the pacing was definitely off, and it was a little bit harder to read because it's only taking place over a couple of days, and it felt like a much longer book for me. There's also a lot of dead naming in this novel, so if you're going through a transition yourself, I feel like this may not be a good book for you, but in the same sense, it is good because, you know, obviously at the end, this is a YA book, you know, he becomes accepted, and it's wonderful, and it's a joyous experience, but it's still hard to deal with and read about sometimes. The next book I'm gonna recommend is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, and I read this earlier this year, and this is the second novel in the Brown Sisters trilogy, and it is a romance, and we have a beautiful bisexual character. Especially for me, bisexuality is not always represented well in books for me in my personal experience, and I just find it so difficult to sometimes find good bisexual representation, and this book did it for me. So we're following Danica, who is Chloe Brown's sister, and Dani is plus size, she is black, she is bisexual, and she's a witch. She's literally like the perfect representation, and I absolutely loved her as a character. Love her as a character. And she works with Zafir, and he is a Muslim ex-rugby player, and he's like such a grumpy, hopeless romantic. And one day he rescues her in an elevator during like a fire drill. And everyone thinks that they're dating, and they basically start fake dating, and it goes from there. And it is very heartwarming and very sweet. I gave it like 4.25 stars, and I really enjoyed it. My only big issue in this book is that the sex scenes went on for like way too long, and sometimes in my opinion. And yeah, I don't know why. I usually am not I don't have a problem with sex scenes, but it also depends on how they're written. And for some reason, Talia Hibbert's sex scenes, like, they just feel like out of the blue, and they don't really mesh for me all the time, and they kind of go on for like almost too long without pulling me in. I don't really know how to explain that, but the rest of the book, absolutely wonderful, and it has really great representation for anxiety and depression as well. And yeah, Talia Hibbert's writing, I think, is just, she's really inclusive, and she does excellent representation, and she has excellent writing, and she makes really real characters. They feel like real people. It doesn't feel like I'm reading about another cardboard cutout. They all have their own things, their own favorite foods they like, their own way they like to live in their apartments. You know, they feel like real people. I think that's really hard to do sometimes in books, so kudos to you, Talia. The next book is Tell Me How You Really Feel by Amina May Safi, and this is a really great YA book. It's another like romance contemporary. I unfortunately didn't rate this one too highly, so please take what I say with a grain of salt. I just did not connect with this book, but it has wonderful representation, and I really loved the characters, and I love the cover. It is just stunning. So we're following Sana, who is like a determined A+ cheerleader, overachiever, and she has feelings for Rachel, who's like a wannabe like art film student, and basically they have a run-in and have to work together from here on out. And there's a lot of great character growth, a lot of good character arcs, but for some reason I just found the writing too choppy, and I just could not follow it. And I just found that, again, this, like, it's a normal short book. It's like 300+ pages, and it took me like a week to read. It took way too long, and I really struggled with the writing, but I really like the representation, and I like a lot of her family members. Both sides of their family are wonderful, and I think they're really done well. For some reason, I just could not connect with the characters to care, and it was just too choppy, and the pacing was a little weird at some points. It felt like movie scenes where they cut and cut and cut, and they, like, you put them together, and they just kind of like don't match. That's kind of what it felt like for me. But I definitely recommend this. I think it's a wonderful representation, and it's a gorgeous sapphic romance. The next book is This Is How You Lose the Time War, and I love this book. I love it so much. I wasn't expecting to love this book. It is very flowery and, God, what is the word I'm thinking of? Pretentious? Like, it's honestly the most pretentious book I've ever freaking read in my life. But something about it, I have never loved two characters more in my life. Like, I really want them to be together. Like, their romance, for some reason, I just felt how deep it was, because basically we have Red and Blue, who are like time agents, and they're on opposite sides of a time war. Like, they're both trying to like influence events and etc. Like, it's hard to explain, and they basically leave each other love notes in like the weirdest ways possible, even in non-human forms. Like, they can shapeshift. It is just so weird, but I mean, once you get past 50 pages in, I feel like you kind of get into a groove and you understand more what's going on. But it is very jarring at first to understand, but it's just so beautifully written, and it makes me feel so hard, which is weird. Like, I just never expected to feel from this. And it's a pretty short book. It's only like 250 pages or something like that. And this is one of my favorite books probably I've read in the last couple years, and I want a copy so bad, and it's been on my wish list forever. I think I'm just gonna buy it for myself because I just want a copy of it, because I also want to reread it. Like, you know, I always think of books, like favorite books, in terms of like, if you meet someone you want to date and they're like, give me like 5 books that represent who you are as a person, like to get to know you. This is one of those books for me, and I really just don't know why. But it totally connected with me, and I just fell absolutely in love with this. This is basically like poetry disguised as like hard sci-fi. And I still stand by my comment in my Goodreads. It absolutely is. And I think it's also because I do love poetry, and I always have, so that part didn't bother me. But it's just, there's something about this book. And you know, I think you should just give it a try. And I know a lot of people sometimes also like the audio better, and just give it a shot. It's one of the best books. I'm sorry. Like, it's pretentious, but I love it. It's just, it's just so cute. The next book is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nang, and I Really enjoyed this book, and the thing that scared me off from this one was I really thought that the sexual violence in this, which I knew was part of the story, where they're basically kidnapped and used as sex slaves by the king, I thought it was a much bigger part of the book, but there's only like one, rape scene very, very late in the book, and it's more alluded to. So I just want to let you know that up front, definite trigger warning. And I was very worried it was going to be like another Pretty Girls for me, because that book, it basically has scarred me to this day, and I can still fully see in my mind images from that book that I got while I was reading it, because it scarred me so badly. And this book is not like that at all. So I just want to preface by saying I don't think it's that bad. I think it was done very well, and I think it was done very respectfully. It is not gratuitous, and it's definitely a theme in the book of oppression, but it is not Pretty Girls-esque, okay? So basically in this world, there are 3 different castes of like people. There is Moon, there is Steel, and there's Paper. So Moon is like full demon, Steel is like half demon, and Paper is human. So obviously Paper is like disposable, Steel is like useful, I don't know, Moon is like ethereal, wonderful demons. I don't freaking know. But those are the 3 castes, and those are also really important throughout the book and how people are treated. And basically, a bunch of paper girls every single year, so human slaves, they become sex slaves for the Demon King. And that's their job, and they're called paper girls, and that's their life. And obviously that's alluded to. They have to, they're basically concubines, and they're treated as such. They have their own respectful position in the palace, but at the same time, they're obviously thought of as less because they're human, and there's a lot of talk about that and how much lesser than the other 2 castes. I really enjoyed the female-female romance in this book, and that's definitely one of the best parts of this, even though sometimes at times, even Lay's love interest, Ren, could be a little bit flat too. I feel like a lot of the characters in this could be a smidgy flat, and other characters were better done. And I really enjoyed how this ended. I think it ended in an interesting way, but also at the same time, I honestly believe this could have been a standalone, because there is a series, and I tried reading the second one, and I DNF'd it. I truly believe that Girls of Paper and Fire should have been a standalone, and it could have just ended there, and it would still have been a good sequel to come back on if they wanted to, but for like a show or something. But yeah, I gave it a good 4 stars. Definitely a lot of things were wrong with the book for me, but at the same time, I also really enjoyed the experience, and I actually listened to this on audiobook, and it was a pretty long audiobook. The fact that I enjoyed so much of it, that says a lot. So those are all 6 recommendations that I have for you today. If you have any others, please let me know below, because I'm always looking for more LGBT representation in books, especially bisexual representation, because obviously it is very personal to me, and I would really like it to be done well, and I've seen it done not well so many times. So please let me know if you have any suggestions. All right, like, subscribe, join the tribe. Talk to you guys next time. Bye! Also, stay gay. I love you.